So if you fell asleep after Leicester City's Premier League win in 2016 and just woke up around February 13th, is it 13th? Yes, it is. 2017.
Tomorrow's
Valentine's Day.
Oh, sorry, V-Day. V-Day, not D-Day.
This is what Leicester City looked like back then, and this is what they look like now, courtesy of Bleacher Report. So as you have probably been well aware, Leicester City, man, they're in the drop zone. It is a troubling time for Leicester City in the Premier League. So before we move forward, let's take a look at the Premier League table just to see exactly where they are. So they're 1 point off the bottom three.
Ew.
I like to consider this the drop zone, and I'll explain why. The drop zone for me is not the bottom three, that's the relegation zone. But when you start to just be in that area where you're trying to claw at any point to try and keep yourself alive, especially with how many 13 games left in the season? We're already way past halfway. And you are, I would say, 10 points away from safety. Because look how close it is at that point. You have Watford there at the bottom three who are only 10 points away from Hull City at the bottom.
Is Middlesbrough just extremely unlucky with a goal differential of -8 sandwiched between two teams who have just given up way more goals? Middlesbrough is just losing closer matches. I can't believe Leicester City's about to play tomorrow or Wednesday in the Champions League and are going to be fighting. They're a relegation sandwich. They were fighting off relegation before they won the Premier League. They won the Premier League. And now they're back to being the bread.
You made the point that I was just going to go forward to discuss, right? So the reason why most Leicester fans, they're not going to be happy. But the reason why I don't think they're like full panic mode is because they've been here before. They've been in a far worse situation than this. Maybe from the outside looking in, if you had just become a Leicester fan 2015-2016 season, you'd be like, what the hell is going on? Leicester City just won the Premier League and now they're at the bottom. But if you were looking at Leicester City prior to that season, you would know that they deal pretty well with adverse situations, such as being merely points away from relegation and then stringing together a ridiculous string of results to claw themselves out and then go on and win the Premier League. So this is just business as usual for Leicester. I don't think that they would have wanted to be in this position, of course not, but they've been here before. And by golly gosh, they got themselves out of it, Jason.
Yeah, I don't think they will be relegated by the end of the year. I think that they're going to make their best effort, and I would hope come away with a win because I'll still root for them in the Champions League against Sevilla. But if they aren't to win that matchup, or there's about 2 weeks, they'll still have time to really focus on Premier League play. And even if they do make the round of 8, or the second stage or the knockout stage, whichever way you want to put it, I don't see Leicester winning the Champions League. So they'll have just, I think, enough time to salvage themselves at the end of the year from relegation. In their fixtures recently, they've come across some brutal opponents, but also have dropped very, very winnable, or at least salvage a point from games.
It's not going to get easier either.
No, it's definitely not, especially because we're getting to a point at the end of the season where people are going to be battling for, not people, but teams, clubs are going to be battling for a top 4 spot because Chelsea's starting to wrap up their campaign. 10 points clear. Manchester City plays today, so maybe 8 points clear if Manchester City wins. So we have the fixtures, the last few results, and they're just since January, since the new year. So they started off with a draw. They beat Everton. Things were looking up. Then they went back into 2 Premier League fixtures where they dropped a combined 6-0. Some draws, a loss to Burnley, which was brutal, a road win that they could have really used. Manchester United spanked them at home. They came back in the FA Cup and then dropped one against Swansea. Yeah,
when you look at it, they haven't won a Premier League game in the new year.
But also I also look at their home fixtures, save for the FA Cup against Derby.
Derby.
Man United and Chelsea as hosting them is not a fun task.
It's not going to get easier either. So Monday, the 27th of February, which they've got a break after they play in the Champions League, they host Liverpool, and then they've got arguably their most important game of the season as they host Hull City, and then after that, they travel to play Arsenal. So the next 3 games will sculpt their season. And here's the point I'm going to make, Jason. I think the Champions League could save Leicester City's season. And I'll tell you why. I think that it could be used as a confidence booster. If they somehow beat Sevilla And they used that to springboard into the game against Liverpool and take the confidence, such as they did against Manchester City when they were on the high from playing well in the Champions League, and then they beat Manchester City at home, albeit that was a horrible performance from Man City. Yes. Really disastrous at the back. But they used their confidence and reminded themselves how good they could be at breaking forward, doing the simple things well. But it's not unfixable what the problem is with Leicester. If you watch them, like I have done extensively this season, they are doing simple things so wrong. Wes Morgan is stepping up, Hoof's dropping back, then vice versa. They're allowing teams to get in behind so easy. That's where it's a problem for me, because it's so fixable. And Ranieri doesn't have to wave his wand and suddenly reproduce another N'Golo Kante. He just needs to get this team defending first and then hit teams on the counter-attack the way they did last year. They were never the most attacking, glorious team. They look good because they forced teams outside of their comfort zone. They made teams play uncomfortably by, we need to get a goal here. Leicester are just defending us, and they look comfortable in that chaotic environment. Bang, counter-attacking football, Vardy, Mahrez linking up. So I think if they get something from the Champions League, they can use that. But Jason, if they don't get anything, I still think they can use the Champions League to help them, because if they go out, they have nothing else other than the FA Cup and to look to salvaging the Premier League right now by managing to stay up. So either way, I think the Champions League could work in their favour. It's all about how they react to it. That's the big thing.
Well, we get some, Jordy would be happy, the true Jordy. Because he gets some competition down there.
Well, that's if he doesn't move up. That's with Newcastle.
They're
doing well. I think they'll
go back up?
Yeah, they've got a good chance of going back up. Let me pull up the table
the
just so I can refresh my memory.
I just want to mention in terms of Premier League recap here, and this is now a theme in the time I've been watching Premier League football. Tottenham cannot win games they need to win on the road.
Yeah,
and it's getting bad. It's bad to the point for me where I know Tottenham won't win the Premier League this year. Now, it's not that bold of a statement. But I'm beginning to believe, because of their away form, and I have to look at the schedule through the rest of the season, that they might have trouble staying in the top 4, with Manchester United playing better, even though I still don't think Man United's going to do it, and Man City probably about to re-enter the top 4, and Liverpool, I mean, think about how different that match is if they're playing at White Hart Lane.
Yeah.
I would think Tottenham would come away with a victory, but Liverpool, just Sadio Mane on 2 straight, 16th minute, 18th minute, just wanted it more.
Yeah, absolutely.
And God, that's a loud crowd too.
So their away form against, you're right, their away form, I think people have been taking this out of context as well in the comments, is that it's not that they're not doing well away from home, they're beating the teams that they should be beating away from home. They smacked Watford a few weeks back, they actually came back and drew with Manchester City, in which they were able to salvage a point. But especially a game like this against Liverpool, where you're travelling away from home and you are title challengers, you should be emerging with something, especially when Chelsea go and drop points the next day. They drop points to Burnley. That could have been a way to close the gap. But the way that they started, I just don't think they had the belief that they could go and win that game. And this is a Liverpool team who have had a disastrous January, and not the best February to start with.
February, I was going to say, very beatable.
They basically just allowed Liverpool to use this as a confidence booster for themselves. Sadio Mane was out for the African Cup of Nations. We know he's not been there. But it almost gave just validation to an excuse that I don't think should have been valid. Oh, Liverpool needed Mane to come back. I think that Tottenham gave Liverpool fans and Liverpool in general an easy outlet now, because, that's why we played bad, because Sadio Mane was... No, you should never have had to rely just on Sadio Mane. He's a quality player. There's no doubt. Now, that doesn't make up for the dodgy defending that's happened in numerous situations through the season. And I think that this now gives Liverpool, rightfully so, a confidence booster. They now have kind of steadied the ship in a way to look at the top 4 as their kind of the accomplishment that needs to be at the forefront. But I think you're right. I think that Tottenham really need to be focusing on picking up points, not just away from home, but picking up points against the bigger teams. The way that they were able to beat Chelsea, that needs to be the standard that's set. They need to use that. If you want to beat the biggest teams in the Premier League, you need to be able to beat them away from home and be able to go on to win this competition. You have to do that. So I think that Chelsea will let off the hook again. Arsenal pick up points, yes. Manchester City playing tonight could pick up points.
They will not.
But still, Tottenham
really should be picking up points.
If Tottenham were able to win that game, it's on. It's on, baby. They're right there next to Chelsea, and they're on to push forward. But I don't know.
Man. And by the way, Cameroon, we're way late. Kobe amount of rings. 5 AFCON championships.
Oh, Cameroon?
Yeah.
Nice.
That was fun, man. I actually watched, it was, okay, so I didn't watch it live because the Super Bowl was on.
Of course.
So it was like Super Bowl Sunday. I'm sure they were at different times, but they were doing replays of it. team fights.
There's
It's fun.
The African Cup of Nations,
Fun cup.
for me, I don't know how to describe it. It's like, it's a combination of like Sunday League football, which people back home, I get it. Like, they're quality players, I'm not taking away from that. But the goalkeepers are insane. They just do like the strangest of things. Like they'll just, for some reason, try to take the ball in a dribble, or they'll have a disastrous save. Like they fumble. They're just, I think they're,
one tied his
some of
shoe
them are
in
just,
back.
someone tied his shoe at the back and they let goal in one time. So I think that I think that someone gives a little word in the ear, like, let's make this tournament a little bit different than the World Cup. And let's just be a little crazy at the back. And it gives a lot of goals. So
also, one of my
credit to
favorite
them.
memes was Sadio Mane returning to Liverpool and just the house is on fire.
Yeah, that was. It's like when he left, everyone's happy, and he comes back. Jurgen Klopp and Coutinho trying to kill each other. So there's a lot of things to discuss in the Premier League. As always, as things get closer down towards the end of the season, I'll of course be giving you more recaps on the Sundays and Saturdays. Things slowed up a little bit, but we're back with Champions League tomorrow, so make sure to stay tuned with that. But Leicester City, just on the cusp of the relegation zone. What do you think is going to happen? Last season's most remarkable sporting story ever could end in tears this year if they go down.
Everyone won the Premier League last year because Leicester
Everyone
won the Premier League.
Everyone won it. Hit us in the comments and on Twitter, Francis_Maxwell, Jason Rubin 91, and on Instagram, Francis M. Maxwell and Jason Rubin 91 also.